The year is 1923, and the battle for Yellowstone is about to explode. Blood will spill, alliances will shatter, and the Dutton family's survival hangs by a thread. With enemies closing in from all sides, the stakes have never been higher. This is the first look at Season 2, Episode 5, where the fight for land, legacy, and life itself reaches a boiling point. Who will survive? Who will fall? And what shocking secrets will be revealed? The war for the American frontier is here, and it's more brutal than ever. The episode opens with a haunting silence, the kind that only comes before chaos. Alex, bruised and broken, sits alone in the dim light of a makeshift shelter. Her hands tremble as she clutches a small, blood-stained cloth, a painful reminder of the violence she endured. Her voice is barely a whisper as she mutters, "He took everything." The camera lingers on her face, capturing the raw pain and fear in her eyes. Has she lost the baby? The question hangs heavy in the air, unanswered. Her journey to Montana grows more perilous by the day, with no money, no allies, and no guarantee she'll make it to Spencer alive. But Alex is a fighter, and even in her darkest moment, a flicker of determination burns in her gaze. Meanwhile, Spencer's path back to Montana is anything but smooth. After narrowly escaping the mafia's clutches in Texas, he's stranded, penniless, and desperate. The wanted posters plastered across every town are a constant reminder that danger is never far behind. As he trudges through the unforgiving wilderness, Spencer's thoughts drift to Alex. He doesn't know what she's endured, but he feels the weight of her absence like a knife in his chest. His journey is fraught with obstacles, bandits, harsh terrain, and the ever-present threat of Whitfield's men. But Spencer is a Dutton, and Duttons don't back down. Every step he takes brings him closer to home, but also closer to the storm brewing on the horizon. Back at Yellowstone, Jacob Dutton paces the ranch, his face etched with worry. Whitfield's grand plan for a winter resort on their land is no longer a distant threat. It's a reality. Banner, fueled by greed and vengeance, has assembled a ruthless group of shepherds, and their first move is imminent. Jacob knows the Duttons are outnumbered and outgunned, but he also knows they have one thing their enemies don't: a legacy to protect. As he gazes out over the vast expanse of Yellowstone, Jacob's resolve hardens. This land is more than dirt and grass. It's their birthright, their future, and he'll die before he lets anyone take it from them. The tension is palpable as the Duttons prepare for the inevitable. Kara, ever the matriarch, moves through the house with quiet determination, her sharp eyes missing nothing. She knows the family is fractured, but she also knows they'll need to stand together if they hope to survive. Her words to Jacob are firm but laced with fear. "We've faced worse than this. We'll face it again." But even she can't ignore the unease settling over the ranch like a dark cloud. As the episode builds, the pieces of Whitfield's plan fall into place. His men move like shadows, closing in on the Duttons from all sides. Banner's shepherds are ready to strike, their eyes gleaming with bloodlust. The stage is set for a brutal confrontation, one that will leave no one unscathed. The Duttons may be prepared to fight, but are they prepared for the cost? The answer lies in the chaos of Episode 5, where every decision, every action, and every betrayal will shape the future of Yellowstone. The first section ends with a chilling shot of Banner standing atop a hill, overlooking the Dutton ranch. His voice is cold as he mutters to his men, "Burn it all." The screen fades to black, leaving only the sound of distant thunder, a warning of the storm to come. The tension escalates as the episode delves deeper into the brewing conflict. Whitfield's influence spreads like a plague, his wealth and power casting a long shadow over the Montana frontier. In a dimly lit office, he sits at his desk, surrounded by maps and blueprints of Yellowstone. His cold, calculating eyes scan the plans for his winter resort, a symbol of his greed and ambition. Whitfield's voice is calm but menacing as he speaks to his right-hand man. "The Duttons are relics of a bygone era. It's time to wipe them off the map." His words are a death sentence, and the weight of his threat looms over every scene. Meanwhile, Banner's shepherds are on the move when you stand in the way of progress. No mercy, no survivors. The shepherds nod, their faces grim, and the camera pans to their weapons: knives, rifles, and ropes. The message is clear: this will be a massacre. Back at the ranch, the Duttons are far from idle. Jacob and Kara work tirelessly to fortify their defenses, but the odds are stacked against them. Jacob's face is a mask of determination as he inspects the rifles and ammunition laid out on the table. His voice is steady as he addresses the few loyal ranch hands who remain. This land is ours. We've bled for it, we've died for it, and we're not giving it up without a fight. The men nod, their loyalty unwavering, but the fear in their eyes is unmistakable. They know what's coming, and they know it won't be easy. Kara, ever the strategist, takes charge of the women and children, ensuring they're safely hidden away in the cellar. Her hands tremble as she locks the door, but her voice is firm as she reassures them. Stay quiet, stay strong. We'll get through this. Her words are a lifeline, but even she can't shake the feeling of dread that grips her heart. The Duttons have faced countless battles, but this one feels different. This time, the enemy is closer, smarter, and more ruthless than ever before. As night falls, the tension reaches a fever pitch. The camera cuts between the Duttons preparing for the worst and Banner's shepherds closing in. The silence is deafening, broken only by the occasional howl of the wind. Then, a sound, a twig snapping, a horse whinnying in the distance. The Duttons freeze, their eyes scanning the darkness. Jacob grabs his rifle and steps onto the porch, his breath visible in the cold night air. They're here, he mutters, his voice barely above a whisper. The attack begins with a sudden, brutal intensity. Banner's men emerge from the shadows like ghosts, their faces obscured by masks. Gunfire erupts, shattering the silence and lighting up the night. The Duttons fight back with everything they have, but the shepherds are relentless. Bullets tear through the air, and the ranch becomes a battlefield. Jacob and Kara stand side by side, their bond unshakable even in the face of death. For the family, Jacob growls, firing his rifle with precision. Kara, armed with a shotgun, nods. For the family, she echoes, her voice steady despite the chaos. But the shepherds are not the only threat. Whitfield's influence extends beyond the battlefield, and his web of deceit begins to tighten. In a shocking twist, one of the Duttons' own is revealed to be a traitor, feeding information to the enemy. The betrayal cuts deep, and the fallout will have devastating consequences. As the battle rages on, the camera zooms in on the traitor's face, their guilt and fear etched into every line. The section ends with a heart-stopping cliffhanger. Spencer, miles away, feels a sudden, inexplicable pang of dread. He stops in his tracks, his eyes narrowing as he gazes toward the horizon. "Alex," he whispers, as if sensing her pain. The screen cuts to black, leaving the audience breathless and desperate for more. The chaos at the Dutton Ranch reaches a fever pitch as the shepherds' assault intensifies. Bullets ricochet off wooden beams, and the air is thick with smoke and the acrid smell of gunpowder. Jacob Dutton, a seasoned fighter, moves with the precision of a man who's faced death countless times before. His rifle barks with every shot, each one finding its mark. But even he can't stop the tide of enemies flooding the ranch. "Fall back," he shouts to his men, his voice cutting through the din. "To the barn! We'll make our stand there." The Duttons and their loyal ranch hands retreat, their faces grim but determined. They know this is a fight for their lives, and they're not going down without a fight. Kara, ever the backbone of the family, takes charge of the wounded. Her hands are steady as she bandages a deep gash on one of the ranch hand's arms, her voice calm but firm. "You're not dying today," she says, her eyes locking onto his. "Not on my watch." The man nods, his fear replaced by a flicker of hope. But even Kara can't ignore the growing sense of despair that hangs over them like a storm cloud. The shepherds are relentless, and their numbers seem endless. Meanwhile, Banner watches the carnage from a distance, his face a mask of cold satisfaction. He's not a man who revels in violence for its own sake. He's a man who sees it as a means to an end. And that end is the complete destruction of the Duttons. "Keep pushing," he growls to his men. "Don't let up until every last one of them is dead." His words are a death knell, and the shepherds obey without hesitation. They move like a well-oiled machine, their attacks coordinated and brutal. His words are a death knell, and the shepherds obey without hesitation. They move like a well-oiled machine, their attacks coordinated and brutal. But the Duttons are not without their own tricks. Jacob, knowing they're outnumbered, devises a desperate plan. "We need to split them up," he says to Kara and the others. "Draw them into the woods. We know this land better than they do. Use it to our advantage." The group nods, their resolve hardening. They've fought for this land their entire lives, and they're not about to let it be taken from them. As the battle shifts to the dense forest surrounding the ranch, the tone changes. The wide-open chaos of the gunfight gives way to a tense, claustrophobic game of cat and mouse. The Duttons use the terrain to their advantage, picking off the shepherds one by one. But the shepherds are no fools, and they adapt quickly. The forest becomes a deadly maze, with danger lurking around every corner. In the midst of the chaos, Alex's storyline takes a dramatic turn. Alone and vulnerable, she stumbles upon a small settlement on the outskirts of Montana. The people there are wary of strangers, but one woman, a motherly figure with kind eyes, takes pity on her. "You look like you've been through hell," the woman says, her voice soft but firm. "Come inside. Let me help you." Alex hesitates, her instincts screaming at her to keep moving. But exhaustion and desperation win out, and she allows herself to be led inside. The woman's name is Margaret, and she's seen her share of hardship. As she tends to Alex's wounds, she listens to her story with a sympathetic ear. "You're not alone," Margaret says, her voice filled with quiet strength. "We've all lost something in this life, but we keep going. That's all we can do." Her words strike a chord with Alex, who feels a glimmer of hope for the first time in days. But even as she begins to heal, she can't shake the feeling that danger is still close behind. Back at the ranch, the battle reaches a critical moment. Jacob and Kara find themselves cornered by a group of shepherds, their backs against a rocky outcrop. "This is it," Jacob says, his voice calm but resolute. "We make our stand here." Kara nods, her shotgun raised and ready. "Together," she says, her eyes locking onto his. "Always." The shepherds move in, their weapons raised, and the screen fades to black just as the first shot rings out. The section ends with Spencer, still miles away, feeling a sudden, overwhelming sense of urgency. He doesn't know what's happening at the ranch, but he knows he needs to get there. Fast. "I'm coming," he mutters, his voice filled with determination. The camera pans to his face, his eyes burning with resolve, before cutting to black. The aftermath of the brutal confrontation at the ranch is nothing short of devastating. The camera pans over the battlefield, revealing the toll the fight has taken. Bodies lie scattered across the ground, some Dutton loyalists, others Banner's shepherds. The air is heavy with the stench of blood and gunpowder, and the once proud ranch is now a smoldering ruin. Jacob and Kara emerge from the forest, their faces streaked with dirt and blood. They're alive, but barely. The cost of their survival is written in the lines of their faces: grief, exhaustion, and a simmering rage that threatens to consume them. Jacob surveys the damage, his jaw clenched so tight it looks like it might shatter. "This isn't over," he growls, his voice low and dangerous. "Not by a long shot." Kara places a hand on his arm, her touch grounding him. "We'll rebuild," she says, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "We always do." But even she can't ignore the cracks forming in the family's foundation. The battle has taken more than just lives. It's taken their sense of security, their belief that they can withstand anything. Meanwhile, Banner retreats with what's left of his men, his face a mask of fury. The Duttons have proven to be far more resilient than he anticipated, and it's cost him dearly. "This isn't the end," he snarls to his men, his voice dripping with venom. "We'll regroup, we'll come back stronger, and next time, we won't leave a single Dutton standing." His words are a promise, and the men nod, their loyalty unwavering despite the losses they've suffered. As the dust settles, the Duttons begin the painful process of picking up the pieces. The wounded are tended to, the dead are mourned, and the ranch is fortified once more. But the scars of the battle run deep, and the family is more fractured than ever. Jacob and Kara work tirelessly to hold everything together, but the strain is evident in their every move. We can't keep doing this. Elsewhere, Alex's journey takes a surprising turn. Margaret, the woman who took her in, reveals that she has connections to the Duttons. "I knew your family a long time ago," she says, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "Good people, strong people. If you're trying to get to them, I can help." Alex's eyes widen in surprise, but she quickly nods. "Thank you," she says, her voice filled with gratitude. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Margaret smiles, but there's a sadness in her eyes. "Just promise me one thing," she says. "When you get there, tell them. Tell them the fight isn't over. Not yet." As Alex prepares to continue her journey, Spencer's storyline takes a dramatic turn. He's closer to Montana than ever, but the obstacles in his path are growing more dangerous. A group of bandits ambushes him on the road, their eyes gleaming with greed. "Hand over everything you've got," their leader snarls, his knife glinting in the sunlight. Spencer, exhausted and outnumbered, knows he's in no condition to fight. But he's not about to give up without a struggle. "You want it?" he says, his voice cold and steady. "Come and take it." The fight that follows is brutal and chaotic. Spencer uses every ounce of strength and skill he has, but the odds are against him. Just as it seems like he's about to be overwhelmed, a shot rings out and one of the bandits falls. Spencer looks up to see a familiar face, Marshall M. Fawzet, the lawman who's been hunting Tina. "Looks like you could use a hand," Fawzet says, his voice dry but not unkind. Spencer nods, his relief palpable. "You have no idea," he replies. The two men form an uneasy alliance, their shared goal of reaching Montana outweighing their differences. But as they continue their journey, it becomes clear that the dangers ahead are far greater than either of them anticipated. Whitfield's influence is everywhere, and his men are closing in. "We're running out of time," Spencer says, his voice filled with urgency. "We need to get to the ranch before it's too late." Fawzet nods, his expression grim. "Then we'd better move fast," he replies. The section ends with a chilling scene of Whitfield in his office, his cold eyes scanning a map of Montana. His fingers trace the outline of Yellowstone, and a small, cruel smile plays on his lips. "The Duttons think they've won," he murmurs to himself, "but the game is far from over." The camera zooms in on the map, revealing a series of red marks, each one a target. The screen fades to black, leaving the audience with a sense of dread and anticipation. As the episode hurtles toward its climax, the tension reaches a breaking point. The Duttons, battered but unbroken, prepare for the next wave of attacks. Jacob and Kara stand at the heart of the ranch, their faces etched with determination. The family's loyal ranch hands gather around them, their loyalty unwavering despite the horrors they've endured. "This land is ours," Jacob says, his voice carrying the weight of generations. "We've fought for it, bled for it, and we're not giving it up. Not now, not ever." The men cheer, their spirits lifted by his words, but the fear in their eyes is unmistakable. They know the fight ahead will be their hardest yet. Kara, ever the strategist, takes charge of fortifying the ranch. Her mind races as she devises plans to outmaneuver Whitfield and Banner. "We need to hit them where it hurts," she says to Jacob, her voice low and urgent. "Their greed is their weakness. If we can cut off their resources, we can slow them down." Jacob nods, his respect for her unwavering. "Do it," he says, "whatever it takes." Meanwhile, Alex's journey takes a dramatic turn as she finally reaches the outskirts of Montana. Her reunion with Spencer is within reach, but the path ahead is fraught with danger. Margaret's words echo in her mind. The fight isn't over. Not yet. Alex knows she's walking into a war zone, but she also knows she has no choice. Spencer is her lifeline, and she's determined to reach him no matter the cost. Spencer, now traveling with Marshall Fawzet, is closer than ever to the ranch. The two men have formed an uneasy alliance, their shared goal of protecting the Duttons outweighing their differences. But the journey is far from easy. Whitfield's men are everywhere, and every step brings them closer to danger. "We're running out of time," Spencer says, his voice filled with urgency. "If we don't get to the ranch soon, it'll be too late." Fawzet nods, his expression grim. "Then we'd better move fast," he replies. As the Duttons prepare for the inevitable, Whitfield's plan begins to unfold. His winter resort is more than just a business venture. It's a symbol of his dominance, a way to erase the Duttons from history. In a chilling scene, he meets with Banner, their alliance stronger than ever. "The Duttons are resilient," Whitfield says, his voice cold and calculating.